Imagine this. Your HOA hates you so much, they actually call the cops on you. Now, picture the officers showing up at your door, only to find out that your wife isn't just any woman. She's the chief of the county sheriff's office. What happened next left the entire neighborhood in shock. Bang, bang, bang. That sound on my front door wasn't just a knock. It was the kind of pounding that makes your stomach drop. I rushed to the door, heart racing, wondering if something terrible had happened. When I opened it, I froze. 2 police officers stood there, arms crossed, hands resting near their belts. One of them spoke sharply. "Sir, we had multiple complaints from your neighborhood's HOA. They say you're violating rules and refusing to cooperate. We need to talk." Now, let me back up. We had moved into this neighborhood only 6 months earlier. My wife and I thought it would be the perfect place to raise our kids. Quiet streets, manicured lawns, families grilling in the evenings. But what no one told us was that this place had its own self-appointed queen, Karen, the head of the Homeowners Association. Karen made it her mission to control everything. If your grass was 1 inch too high, you got a notice. Left your trash bin out for 10 minutes too long, another notice. Park your car slightly off-center? Oh! She was on you instantly. But the problem started when my wife, who drove a government-issued SUV for work, parked it in our driveway. Karen decided it didn't fit the neighborhood's look. She told me to move it. I politely refused. That's when the war began. Now here I was, standing at my door with 2 officers staring at me, because the HOA had actually called the cops over my driveway. The officers asked to come inside. I stepped aside, still shocked. "Sir," the taller officer said, flipping through his notepad, "the HOA president, Mrs. Karen Wilson, claims you've been hostile, breaking neighborhood rules, and refusing to comply. We're here to get your side." I laughed, though my hands were shaking a bit. Hostile? For parking my own driveway. The shorter officer gave me a look. She said you threatened her. And that's when it hit me. Karen wasn't just being controlling. She was lying, twisting the truth to try and push us out. I started explaining. I had never threatened her. The SUV was authorized and legal. Karen had been harassing us for weeks with petty fines and nasty letters. The officers exchanged glances. They didn't say much, but I could tell they weren't sure what to believe. After all, HOA presidents usually came across as upstanding citizens. That's when I heard footsteps behind me. My wife walked into the room. She had just gotten home from work, still in her uniform. The officers' eyes widened instantly. Their posture changed. Because here's the thing, my wife isn't just anyone. She's not just a government employee. She's the chief of the county sheriff's office. And in that moment, everything shifted. My wife stepped forward calmly, her presence commanding the entire room. "Officers," she said firmly, "do you know who I am?" They nodded quickly. "Yes, ma'am." Sheriff's Chief Daniels. Karen had made the biggest mistake of her life. She called the cops to intimidate us, without realizing the person she was trying to bully was the boss of those very officers. The taller officer cleared his throat nervously. "Ma'am, we were responding to a complaint filed by the HOA president. She claims there were threats made." My wife raised an eyebrow. "Threats? Against her? Funny. I have documentation of her harassment toward my family." She walked over to our desk and pulled out a folder. Inside were copies of every letter Karen had shoved into our mailbox. Each one was more ridiculous than the last. A fine for leaving our holiday lights up for too long. A warning about my kid's basketball hoop being an eyesore. A notice about the SUV in the driveway, claiming it was unapproved equipment. She handed the folder to the officers. "Gentlemen, you've been misled. This is harassment, false claims, a misuse of police resources." The shorter officer sighed, rubbing his forehead. "We're sorry, ma'am. Looks like this was a waste of everyone's time." But my wife wasn't done. "Not just a waste of time," she said sternly. "This is a criminal misuse of law enforcement, and I'll be filing a formal report." The officers looked at each other like 2 kids caught stealing candy. They knew this was serious. And outside, I could see Karen peeking from her window, watching everything go down. The very next day, Karen showed up at our house. She wasn't stomping around like usual. She wasn't waving papers or shouting. She was shaking. I think we may have gotten off on the wrong foot, she stammered, clutching a coffee mug like it was a shield. No hard feelings, right? My wife just smiled politely. Karen, calling the police on your neighbors is not a misunderstanding. It's harassment. I'll let the county handle it from here. Karen's face went pale. She knew she had gone too far. Within weeks, things started changing. The HOA stopped sending us letters. Karen stopped patrolling the street, like a watchdog. In fact, she started avoiding us completely. At the next HOA meeting, the community voted to remove her as president. Apparently, we weren't the only family she had tormented. Others finally spoke up, sharing their stories. She fined one neighbor for having a garden hose visible. She threatened another for planting flowers outside the approved color scheme. She even tried to ban kids from playing ball in their own driveways. Her reign of terror was over, and all it took was one very bad phone call to police. Life in the neighborhood slowly returned to normal. Kids played outside again. Families had barbecues without worrying about Karen sneaking around with her clipboard. As for us, we kept living our lives, SUV and all. My wife continued her work at the sheriff's office, protecting people who truly needed it, not babysitting some HOA's obsession with grass height. Every now and then, I'd catch Karen walking her dog. She couldn't look me in the eye. She'd cross the street to avoid us. And honestly, that was the sweetest victory. Because here's the truth. Bullies like Karen think they hold all the power. They think rules and threats can control everyone around them. But when you stand your ground, and when the truth comes out, bullies fall. And sometimes, karma comes in the form of a sheriff's badge. So if you ever find yourself being pushed around by a Karen, remember this story. Because one day, just like Karen, they might learn the hard way. You never know who you're messing with. And that's how one HOA learned the hard way. You never know who you're messing with. If you enjoyed this story, smash that like button, share it with a friend, and drop a comment with your own HOA or neighborhood horror story. I'd love to hear them. Don't forget to subscribe for more wild, true stories every week. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.